because when people find out Demi Samantha Espinosa's story, it'll blow them away. Tested love came about when Demi flatlined and she bled out 4 liters of blood in the OR. And I'll never forget that phone call.
You're watching the Rockstar Diaries TV show.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
My beautiful daughter that's now just turned 15 and was given 3 days really to live and is nothing short of an absolute miracle. So I am the youngest of 9 children. I have 4 children of my own, 3 boys and Demi. Demi, for the last 15 years, has given me such an incredible gift. I didn't realize the magnitude of the gift until 2023. And I am just super blessed to be able to speak about this because from incredible pain sometimes, guys, we can have something miraculous occur. And the ultimate question for me is that I came to the painful realization of is the pain going to make me bitter or is it going to make me better? And my gosh, this has made me significantly better and I'm very grateful.
Do you want to go back to the beginning for those who don't know Demi and her story?
Sure. So Demi was born with a very complicated heart defect, and it's called tetralogy of Fallot with pulmonary atresia and MAPCAs. MAPCAs is just a medical term of major aortic pulmonary collateral artery. So she was born without a pulmonary artery, which is very significant because without that, you really can't oxygenate and therefore you can't breathe. You can't breathe, you can't live. But Demi, to compensate for that deficiency, her body just had these little collateral vessels that shot off the aorta to the lungs to be able to oxygenate. Me and Demi's mom were having ultrasounds weekly because it was a very high-risk pregnancy. And I got to tell you, it was we had an opportunity that they presented to us, and I wouldn't even call it an opportunity. They gave us an option, and very non-bedside like, and they just said, oh, so you know what, your daughter has a very complicated heart defect, she's probably going to have DeGeorge syndrome or Down syndrome, so you know you can have an abortion. And I'll never forget those words and how it was said, more importantly. And it's so scary. First of all, you hear that, but then you hear how they suddenly can just, with no emotion whatsoever, just say, you can just, you know, have an abortion, no big deal, like, here, pass me the peanut butter jelly sandwich. And I'll never forget that, because because when you're in such a vulnerable state, something somebody says, especially a doctor, like, you can really consider it and maybe make a very impulsive decision. And I got to tell you, I would have been robbed. Demi's mom would have been robbed. My other children would have been robbed. You guys, the world would have been robbed of such a beautiful story. I'll never forget that. And I'm sorry for repeating it because it was so profound. And I am so grateful for not even seriously considering it. I told that doctor in a not so nice way and in a very loud Cuban voice. I said, listen to me, I'm having this baby. We're having this baby, whether the baby has Down syndrome, DeGeorge syndrome, whatever syndrome. It's our baby and we're having it. And you know what? That was God speaking through me. I firmly believe that. And I am so grateful because when people find out Demi Samantha Espinosa's story, it'll blow them away. It'll blow them away.
So tell us about the struggles, like personal struggles, you faced going through this process.
Yeah. So look, obviously the when you start with, you have, twin boys, and within 15 months, suddenly you have 3 kids because we had the twins first. Here comes Demi with these medical issues. It affects every facet of your life, right? Not the least of which is mom and dad. It affects, Demi's other siblings. Mm-hmm. But I would argue that it's had such a much more profound positive effect on not just us, but on so many other people. But yeah, that's the outcome. So let's talk a little bit about the struggles, guys. Been very dark times. Mm-hmm. I mean, there were times where, Demi's a baby. She's born at Mercy Hospital. My oldest brother's a Jesuit priest, so he baptizes her at birth. Demi's pediatric cardiologist was there. It was there in the baptisms, Dr. Madeline Moss, and together we're thinking, okay, we don't know what's going to happen. We may say baptize her, and maybe that's it. We leave Mercy Hospital. Demi's mom's in recovery, and I go in a life flight to Nicholas Children's Hospital because she was born in a Catholic hospital, Mercy Hospital here in Miami. Then we went to another local hospital where they had a very good team of cardiothoracic surgeons and cardiologists and interventionists. And so we went over there, and that's when life really changed. I mean, you start being introduced to all of these doctors. You're dealing with medical terminology in a very unique jargon that you're not really used to. And so you're every other thing that they're telling me, I'm having to do a Google search, right? It's scary, but throughout the last 15 years, there's been ups and downs for sure. The downs have been, man, very dark. And when I say dark, I mean just anxiety, depression, because she gets good, but then she gets bad. And she's a baby. We're having to stick needles in her head because cardiac babies aren't very vascular. And so I remember having to shave her head as an infant, 2 days old, because they had to get a PICC line through her head. And not many people can see that, but God gave me the faith and the strength to persevere, and people's prayers just sustained me through it. And it started back, when she was a baby, and then she's had multiple open heart surgeries, too many cardiac catheterizations to count. And then in 2023 or 2022 rather, we were told that she's walking heart failure. And we're like, oh my God, is it going to happen now? Like, is Demi going to leave us and go to a better place? So we're not prepared for that. Nicholas Children's, which was formerly Miami Children's, then tells us, look, there's nothing else we can do. I'm like, well, something else can be done for sure, and we got to explore it. So my second mother, which is Dr. Madeline Moss, who shares Demi's birthday too,
Wow.
May 21st, she says, look, you're like a family to me. We're going to plan. We're going to do this. And she found, Stanford, and we did research, and collectively we came up with this opportunity to start consults with Stanford. And let me tell you something about Stanford Children's Hospital, also known as Lucille Packard Children's Hospital. It is very hard, to get in there if you're not from California. Very hard. You got to know people, and I knew nobody at Stanford. Now I know a lot of people because God is good.
Yes.
But the 2022 and then 2023, when we flew over there, hardest time in my life by a landslide. And what Sarah was saying, tested love, came about when Demi flatlined and she bled out 4 liters of blood in the OR. And I'll never forget that phone call. Her twin brothers had just arrived. We had already been there for 4.5 months. And, she had already overcome, she had been on life support for 3.5 months. She had overcome being septic, an uncontrolled infection, bad mediastinitis, multiple open heart surgeries just there. And the miracle that occurred at Stanford, it's going to be a story that's going to be told. And look, I'm going to tell it, but it's not my story really. It's God speaking through me, and I firmly believe that. And what Demi has taught me, they say that the parent is the student. That it could not be truer in my situation. Demi has taught me so much. God has used Demi as an instrument to really allow me to tell her story, and what she's taught me and so many other people. I can't wait to tell it. And I'll say one thing that most people know that know Demi. Demi is an angel roaming the earth. I don't say it because she's my daughter.
Oh,
I say it because that girl, anybody she speaks to, anybody she interacts with, they notice it. And I'm so blessed that God chose me to be her father.
yeah. I have to be honest. She's made an impact on me, and I haven't even met her yet. I watched the amazing video that Sara-Jane did, and just by hearing you and the love, it's really made an impact on me. And a couple days ago, I was feeling sorry for myself. I wasn't feeling well. I did something to my neck. You guys came to mind, and I said, you have no reason to feel sorry for yourself, Janine. If these guys are, I just can't say enough. Just listening to you talk, just really, do you agree?
What made you the warrior you are? I mean,
yes.
One day you just didn't decide to wake up and say, I'm going to follow God, did you? I mean, there's a warrior process. What made you the warrior through all this battle?
I think God has been preparing me for several years.
Mm-hmm.
And while it was happening, I can honestly tell you, I probably did not connect with that. There were times where, look, whether you're a follower or you're not a follower of Jesus Christ. In the end, you have to recognize, I think, when things are just beyond you. I mean, it's easy to take credit for it, but I can't, because I think what made me the warrior is my faith in Christ, that was instilled in me by my parents, my siblings, and then truthfully, Demi. This girl has managed to give me this incredible strength. And what's incredible to me is she tells me I give her the incredible strength. And so it's this symbiotic relationship that's beautiful.
You know, music is so powerful at just connecting with us. And, you know, when I made that video, I remember I actually I shared this with someone recently, you know, I just saw myself in it. And especially because so much of it was focused on the role that music played, and Taylor Swift, the role that she had on Demi's healing and recovery. I instantly connected with that because the Here's Hope project, it all started with a song. And it all started with a musician and band called Owl City. And so I immediately just connected with that, like what music did for her and how it played into Danny, and just the inspiration with how, you know, they ended up creating songs and writing songs and doing that kind of stuff together. But it was just, I saw myself in them when I created it, and I felt all the emotions and was crying when I made it. It's just, that's what I love about music. You can really put yourself in someone else's shoes, and you can really not just see their journey, but you can feel it as if you're living it too. And it's just such a life-changing feel. And that's why I absolutely love creating music videos and on a mission to do this, because I want other people to see and feel what I do.
And she's so darn good at it too, I must add.
Yes, in fact, we're right now going to put up the QR code and the information that they need for the project, the documentary, and how we can all support that. And I believe that everybody should see the video, the initial video that you did, and look at this information about the documentary, and please, like, support that. These people are amazing.
There are videos that I have of Demi in a coma, and where she's very sedated and put on a paralytic intentionally, because it was just very high risk and we couldn't risk her moving. But when I would play music, she would even jolt. She'd move a shoulder, she'd move like that, and that to me, I mean, it makes me want to cry, honestly, because I think of how amazing she was when she was in such a very bad place, and music inspired her. It helped us. It was the way we communicated, because she couldn't talk. She had, rather than getting the trach early, she got intubated, and she was intubated for a very long time. And I'm talking months, which is very rare. And so music was the way we communicated. And she would write when she was awake, she'd write on an iPad. And at times she didn't even have the strength to even push, you know, letters on an iPad. So we would communicate with like fingers or this, and we put music. And when we put music, it's like if we were talking, but we weren't. We were just listening. And I would hold her hand, then she squeezed my hand, I'd squeeze her hand, and it was such a beautiful thing. The day that Demi flatlined and it got really bad, God spoke to me through music. And that's when I went out on a balcony and I said, my God, I'm not going to lose my baby. And I wanted to just, you know, I'd sometimes leave the hospital, do something else, just because the pain was just there for so long. And it would get a little better, but then it would get worse. And my God, with all the people's prayers sustaining me really around the world, and the beautiful people I met at Stanford and Stanford University, I went out on a balcony and I just wrote a poem for my daughter. And I said, you know what? I'm going to turn this into a song. So God allowed me to connect with music and use music to really avail myself of a very healthy out. I've seen a lot of the unhealthy ones. I've engaged in those over the course of my life at times. But during my darkest time, I engaged in the healthiest one imaginable. And that is pick up a guitar. And that's what I did. And my goodness, picking up that guitar, what it did, and I wrote such a beautiful song. The memories Demi and I have, the fact that the music therapist would listen to the song, and we actually ended up recording the song "Tested Love" in a hospital room is about as organic and as beautiful as it can get. And that's why this story is so awesome, because
Oh,
it's so unplanned, it's so raw, it's so real, and
wow.
people see it. I don't have to advertise it. Why? Because the minute they hear it, they know the authenticity that attaches to it.
Hear more from this amazing guest and catch the full show wherever you get your podcasts.